When I think about balance, it's a really funny concept. It's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and it's really fascinated me. It's kind of like, if you take it in the literal sense, as human beings, we are instinctively driven to survival. And if you're up on a knife edge ridge or rock climbing or up in the mountains, your brain tells your body that you need to balance in order to survive. That's pretty natural. But when you look at the metaphorical sense about life balance and balancing things in your life that are important to you, it's like people strive their whole lives to achieve this, and it's kind of a paradox. I remember going back to 2016 when, after I'd been up the three peaks of England and I'd discovered this new lust for mountaineering, and I'd been planning on the Everest Base Camp trek and my summit quest for 2020. I thought I had balance. I thought I'd stepped away from the music side of things and finally I had some balance in my life, but that was really misguided, because I thought all I was really doing was going from one obsession to the next. Years before, my obsession was this fascination with trying to succeed in the music industry, with Nashville and find a place somewhere as a tour photographer. I was obsessed, I was fixated with it. And then of course, with everything that happened in 2016 in the earlier part of the year, and my discovery of nature and the mountains, I mistook jumping from one obsession to the next with finding happiness and balance. I mean, yeah, I was happy, but it doesn't mean that, you've got that balance in your life. And it's great to be able to sit back now, 2 years on, and see where my life has taken me and be able to be aware of that and how I was. And yeah, I was just seeking the next big peak and the next big thrill, and I always shunned away when people thought I was a thrill seeker, and I still don't think I ever was or am, because the mountains are a completely different scenario to me than going free solo on a vertical rock wall in Yosemite or something like that, or bungee jumping or anything, jumping out of a plane. It's not about that for me. It's a place of clarity and a place of lucidity, and it's my happy place.
I used to think that it was only a year ago, or just over a year ago, that before that I'd never seen this mountain in my life, and now it's become a second home to me. I mean, I could easily just get a bivvy and overnight here, set up camp by the pinnacles. It's just one of the most beautiful places I think I've ever seen, and that's saying something.
But nevertheless, I was still fixated. When I decided I was going to attempt to summit Everest, I was fixated on it. When I decided I'd raise money for Alzheimer's and go to base camp and push myself, I was fixated. So it was just my personality, my inner core, my nature coming out, and I'm a very obsessive person. So it was interesting at that second half of the year that I decided, after having a lot of difficulties financially, and I was still struggling throughout 2016. The house wasn't selling, but I just felt I needed to do something. I needed to take control and take a risk. Someone once said to me that, the biggest risk in life to take is actually not taking one. And I stand by that. I believe that 100%. Without change, nothing changes. So I'd heard that a country music artist that I had been working with occasionally in the States, called Eric Church, was performing in the mecca of venues. You know, this is a bucket list venue for photographers, for artists, for anybody really to visit. And that was Red Rocks in Colorado. It's a beautiful outdoor amphitheatre, you know, set amidst the rock, with, you know, Denver as a backdrop, and it's ethereal. It's got a lot of history, and big names have played there. And I knew Eric was playing 2 shows there, and I'd built up a really decent relationship with his management down in Nashville. And of course, they were all fine with me shooting the 2 shows. And I took a punt. You know, I just thought, I've got a good enough relationship and I'm confident enough with my output that I'm sure, you know, if the time comes, they'll look after me if need be. So I decided I'd head over to Colorado. I'd never been there before, and I thought in the process what I'm going to do is try and combine a bit more outdoors stuff. So I, you know, looked around on a map and tried to figure out the best route. And as it turned out, I decided I'd fly into Vegas, and it was completely against anything that Vegas stands for. I've been there so many times, and I was kind of not really interested in the whole electric atmosphere that Vegas has to offer. So I booked myself in a really cheap motel. I don't even know if it had a name. It wasn't on the Strip. It was really hot. I remember I landed in the afternoon. I just sort of lay by the pool for a bit, grabbed a bite to eat, and decided to turn in for the night. And I set my alarm for 2 a.m. with the intention of checking out of that hotel at about 3 a.m. and just driving. I had a basic route to head up to Utah, and then across from Utah, the long stretch through the state of Utah to Colorado. And I'd initially thought what I wanted to do was do a little hike pre-dawn in a place called the Valley of Fire State Park. And it was just, I remember driving there, and it was dark, and it was kind of like I was on a different planet. And I got there pre-dawn, and, you know, I mean, we're talking, this is not England, you know, this is Martian landscape with you know, things like rattlesnakes and scorpions and all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of a little bit intimidating, but I went for a nice hike slowly, and had my camera gear and all that kind of stuff, which I always take. And I saw the sunrise amongst these beautiful rocks and valleys, and it was just beautiful as the colour of the sun hit the rock. I don't know if it was limestone or sandstone, but it was just glorious, and I had a really nice morning there. And I was in Nevada, but I was nowhere near, you know, MGM Grand or anything like that. And then, as I was heading back, my foot went on a rock which wasn't solid, and it came loose, and I sort of slid down this little crevasse. It was nothing major. It was probably about 5 feet. And, you know, I sort of shimmied down with my butt, and as I hit the bottom, my foot sort of jarred and my ankle went, and I just thought, please don't let me have rolled my ankle. Sure enough, by the time I hobbled back to the car, it was swollen up like a balloon. And I was kind of mortified. I thought, here's my next 7 days gone. You know, I'd planned to go hiking in the Colorado Rockies, and I planned to go hiking everywhere really on my way, and I just started mortified. But, you know, I kept going, and I went to the nearest gas station, and I grabbed a big bag of ice and slammed my foot in it and drove all the way to Utah, pins and needles and everything. But I thought, I'm going to ice this fucker. And I got to Utah, and I went to Zion National Park. I remember it was just, again, somewhere that I had to visit, and I'd had this, you know, idea that I really wanted to hike up to Angel's Landing, which is a beautiful vantage point in Zion. But I couldn't put any weight on my foot at all by this time. This is now 5 hours later. I was completely and utterly screwed. So I had to catch the bus up to to see the view, which I felt like a proper tourist. But by that evening, I decided I'd get some ibuprofen and an ankle strap and really try and get rid of this, try and recover from it quickly. And as the days went on, I drove through Utah and it was slowly getting better and these things take time, so I was kind of very, very ginger on it. But I made the most of it. I saw this. I mean, anyone who's been to America will understand this, or the Midwest. The landscape just goes on forever. The horizon is almost like when you're looking through a telescope or binoculars or something, where you see the horizon line. It's just for a forever horizon, and it's this intimidating flat landscape, dotted with canyons on either side, which are just stunning, because you don't see that anywhere. Well, you don't see it in the UK, and this was all new to me. And I went hiking slowly in the canyons, took some photos, and I remember I saw Devil's Canyon in Utah, which I was fascinated by. It was just vast, this vast escarpment, a drop that just went on forever, and it kind of, I'd only ever seen the Grand Canyon before, so it was amazing to get a feel for the fact that there are so many other beautiful natural landmarks around the whole of the United States, this vast, vast country. And I kept going, and I just kept driving, and I kept stopping, and it wasn't just the landscape, it was the weather. Again, anyone who knows the States, he knows that you can look to the left and you can see beautiful blue sky, and you look to the right and you see Armageddon, the end of the world. It's just a vast country for just like natural phenomena. And I went hiking in a few different places. I stopped and chatted with the locals, and that's what I love about the Middle America. The people are so friendly, and I remember stopping at the Arches National Park, and this was something I really wanted to see. These red rocks forming and balancing on other rocks, and I saw the beautiful sunrise over this orange landscape. It was just beautiful. I had a great time, and I sort of went back onto the interstate, and I hit a town called Glenwood Springs, and if I kept going, I would have gone straight through to Denver, which was my final destination. And I decided I'm going to turn right here because I knew that would be heading south towards the Colorado Rockies, basically towards Aspen, the ski hub of the Midwest. And I had no idea where I was going. I just thought I'm going to head to the mountains because I've had enough of canyons now. And arid land, and I wanted to see some greenery, and I wanted to see some rocks and that kind of stuff. And I headed down, and again, no plan other than just keep driving until I saw somewhere really, really picturesque. And I got to a little town called Carbondale, and I remember as I came over the hill, the landscape just opened up, and I saw this mountain in the distance, the standalone mountain. That looked so imposing. Initially thought it was snow-capped, but it was actually gravel. And I was just fascinated by it. The analogy of a woman where it's love at first sight, that's kind of what I felt. And I remember thinking, I've got to climb you. First thing I thought, and I looked it up, and it was Mount Cypress. And the Colorado Rockies are very famous for having a lot of what they call 14,000-foot mountains, which is close to about 4,000. It's pushing 4,000 metres. And this Mount Cypress was about 13,000 feet, so just shy of 4,000 metres. And I just thought, I've got a rolled ankle here, sprained ankle. This is 3 times higher than anything I've ever done. Is this really a good idea? But it was in me, and I had to do it. And I knew I'd have to take it slowly. I still had no idea back then. I kind of laugh at myself so much when I see photos or any kind of footage. I was carrying this 65-litre backpack. God knows why. It's not a day pack. This is like this is a kitchen sink type thing. In fact, somebody said to me, one of the guys that I passed when I got to the lake level, asked me, he said, "Have you got an AC unit in there?" Because it was quite hot. It was pushing about 35 degrees. And I remember starting about 6:30 a.m. and taking it really slowly, but it kind of got really hot early and got above the tree line quite early, and then it just kind of went forever. Loose scree up a ridge to get to the main summit ridge. So I thought. And I remember seeing people turning back And I thought, this isn't a good sign. Why are these people turning back? Do they know something I don't? But I cracked on and I hit the ridge and I thought, right, I'm nearly there. And then somebody said to me, that's the false summit. And I realised this is a twin peak mountain. So you hit the ridge and you get to a summit, and it drops back down and you get this long ass ridge that goes right up to the summit, which had bits of snow already on there. And I was kind of worried, thinking, you don't muck about with this. This is close to 4,000 metres, so you're talking AMS, you're talking altitude sickness and, thinner air. So I had to be really careful, plus I had the rolled ankle, so I took it very slowly. I did get a headache when I was on that final ridge, and I sort of stopped for a little bit, but I think it was more the heat. And I hit the summit at 2:30 p.m. I was so proud. I did not think I would make it that far. I planned to do it, but I never thought I'd actually get to the top. And I was stood there and I was overlooking this sea of peaks, of Colorado Rockies. The tallest mountain in the Rockies is Mount Albert at 14,000 something. And people were saying to me that Sopris is actually a tougher climb, and or a lot of people regard it as a tougher climb. And it was tough, but wow, I was really on top of the world now. I was looking over this, just the beauty of, the summer glow over the peaks and the summits of the other Colorado Rockies, as far as the eye could see, almost like, high altitude sand dunes. And then I made my way down because I thought, that was a long hike up. So it proved to be a very long hike down. It kind of went, I remember when I got back down below the tree level, it just went on forever, and I thought, am I getting lost here? But I just kept going, and it took me a good 5.5 hours to get down. 8 hours up, 5.5 hours down, and it was a long slog. And I remember I literally jelly-legged collapsed into the car at about 9 p.m, starving. And one thing I've learnt now, which is kind of my little trademark when I go on these adventures, is I always run out of places to be able to get food, because by the time I get back down, everything's closed. And I was pretty pissed off because I really wanted a good old steak or something. So instead of staying in Carbondale, I decided I'd make the long journey to Denver that night. At least I could relax in the car and rest my feet a bit. It took about 4 hours, I think. And then I hit Denver, but I was reflecting all the way there, and I was like, this is just something else. To this day, it was probably one of my most proudest moments, to be able to do that on a sprained ankle, alone, in 35-degree heat, going up 3 times higher than I ever had been before, in a place that, was big. Pretty happy about that. So I'd hit Colorado and I'd hit Denver and checked into a hotel, and it's a nice little story here because this goes back to the whole the balance thing that I've been harping on about, which is so true, and it never had been any truer than this moment. I'd come over on a whim to shoot Eric and hope for the best, and I'd get to Denver and I'd check my emails, and there was an email from his management basically asking me to keep it under wraps, but that his label were going to release a vinyl and a CD of the live shows, and they wanted me to shoot the covers. 2 years ago, I would never have dreamed about shooting an album cover, especially not for, potentially someone who's regarded as probably the greatest going country music artist around, at the moment, who I was fortunate enough to be occasionally working with. And I just remember thinking, I had this deluded dream of being a tour photographer and making it really big in the music photography industry. and really pushing myself. And then I, took a step back, and I'm shooting an album cover in Red Rocks, a bucket list venue. And it's kind of like, when you're desperate for something, when you're really pushing yourself, and you emanate a certain vibe, and it's kind of, I can say that now because I'm a lot more aware of how I was, and it's kind of almost a bit, bordering on a desperate vibe. And when you don't go looking for things so much and let things happen organically, and let the universe just conspire to make things happen for you rather than you try and control everything, things tend to happen, I noticed. Damn it, I keep saying I got an album cover with Eric Church, two album covers. So, suddenly the pressure was on. I wasn't just shooting for myself or for providing the management with some shots. This is going on merchandise. So I had a bit of weight on my shoulders, but I thrive under pressure, and it was being filmed as well, so I had to be careful of my access and where I was going to appear on the stage and this kind of stuff. And I watched the first show, took some notes, watched the second show, and it was this beautiful, beautiful production set. Probably one of the greatest live performances I've ever seen, with the production set. I mean, this is Eric Church in his element. He was performing an intimate gig in front of 10,000 people. That's how it felt. And he had a lightning storm in the background in Denver, and this amazing backdrop of behind what is the greatest, regarded as one of the greatest amphitheatres in the world. And, according to management and label and fans and people, the photos were pretty amazing. I was proud of them, considering it was kind of sprung on me that I'd be shooting for a cover. But I was frustrated because I couldn't tell anybody. I remember my really close friend and now almost like a little sister to me, Sana in Sweden, and my best friend in Australia, Anthony. I couldn't say anything. I just had to keep it under wraps until October when they announced it. And then I was like, yeah, this is what I've been wanting to say for so long. So it was a great feeling, It's just one of those moments that I was able to look and go, you know what? Again, I did it off my own back, but I didn't do it expecting anything. I didn't push myself thinking, right, I need to contact people. I'm the right person for the job, this and that. I just let it go. And it's funny, just touching on that, it was a few months earlier, and going back to CMA Fest, I'd taken the foot off the gas, and I knew this was my last CMA Fest, and I thought, I'm just going to have a bit of fun and, do what I need to do, but really enjoy it. And Eric was actually doing a surprise midnight jamboree at a very small record store, famous record store called Ernest Tubbs, and he was joined by another artist called Charlie Worsham. And it was a jam-packed record store in the June heat of Nashville, and I was asked to shoot it. And I remember getting some shots of Eric as he was coming in, and there was one that I'd taken, and there was a little boy, so I think he was about 12 years old, in the frame, and the expression on that boy's face was just priceless. And as soon as I saw that photo, I just wanted to give something back. I thought, Jesus, if that was me, I would love a photo. Eric panning through the photo, and this little boy, Evan, I found out later is his name, and I made it a quest to find this boy. I had no interest in any kind of exposure or credit or anything like that. I just wanted to get this photo to this boy because I thought, I just wanted to give something back, And the whole thing went viral. I know Charlie Worsham himself got on board, and he shared the photo and tweeted and sent it off to try and find this kid, who we ended up finding. I think the label also might have shared it, and we found this boy, and his mum was ever so grateful, and I was just so happy that a fan got something out of it, and it was something that I was able to produce. So I got the photo printed, a large copy, and Eric signed it, and it was delivered to the boy. And that was that. And it was just a really nice moment. But again, I'd taken the foot off the pedal. I knew this was my last time in Nashville for a while, and I had fun shooting the CMA Fest. It's always fun. And then this night of a small, intimate gig came up, and the management said, "Go along, shoot it, please." And I did, and out of that, I made someone happy, with my work. It was a really nice feeling. So yeah, very similar feeling to how things transpired with Eric Church at Red Rocks. It was really, really unexpected. But now that I can consciously look back and see how my journey had been progressing, I kind of understand why it happened. And it's all to do with balance. Balance is not just about life, work, it's everything, friends, family, what makes you happy. And it's an ongoing journey. I mean, I'm an obsessive person, so I'm still falling in holes now, but I'm a lot more aware than I used to be. And balance is something really important if you want to feel fulfilled in your life.